All right, so plastic bags,
Uh,
worst invention of the 20th century. That's what some British media are saying. And we're going to deep dive into that today. We'll be talking about everything plastic bags, how they got so popular, what kind of damage they do, and what Singapore's doing about the problem.
well, I think it's interesting how something so small could cause such a debate. It really shows just how much we want convenience, even if it hurts the environment.
That's so true. I mean, you think back to the 50s, the 60s. Back then, plastic bags were like revolutionary, cheap, hygienic, strong. They were a shopper's dream come true.
Yeah, and that was when plastic was becoming really popular everywhere. It was changing so many industries, becoming part of everyday life. So, of course, the plastic bag was going to be huge all over the world.
But get this, Singapore uses 820 million plastic bags every year. That's like giving every person in Singapore a plastic bag every day for over 2 years.
Wow. That really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? But yeah, all that convenience has a downside. The thing that made plastic so great, its strength, is also what makes it bad for the environment. It just doesn't go away.
It's like having a house guest that never leaves. And it seems like we can't get rid of them. It doesn't matter how we try, whether it's landfills or burning them, they just stick around.
Right, because both ways of getting rid of them cause problems. Burning plastic releases all those nasty pollutants into the air. And landfills basically become these plastic graveyards. The bags just sit there for hundreds of years and could even leak toxins into the ground.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, I read that plastic we bury today could still be here in 200 years. That's even longer than Singapore's been a country.
Yeah, it really shows that what we do today affects people in the future. We're basically leaving them a mountain of plastic garbage.
And it's not just on land, right? It's in the oceans, too. And it's doing a lot of damage to marine life.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge global issue. A lot of sea animals think plastic is food, and when they eat it, it blocks their digestive systems. And that can lead to starvation or even death.
It's just so sad to think about those animals suffering because of something we use every day. It makes you wonder if we can do better.
Well, there are people trying to do something about it, both around the world and here in Singapore.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What's Singapore doing to try to deal with this plastic bag problem?
Well, they're doing a few things. They've started charging for plastic bags at big stores. It's not a new idea, but they made it a rule in 2023. It's basically telling people that convenience isn't free.
I've definitely noticed that at the supermarket. Now I really think about whether I need that extra bag.
Exactly. It's
Mm.
supposed to get people to make better choices for the environment. Another thing they're doing is encouraging people to use bags that can break down naturally or be recycled.
Yeah, I see more of those now, like bags made from plants. It's great that businesses are starting to use these alternatives.
Absolutely. It's definitely a positive step. And the third thing they're doing is public education. Things like the Bring Your Own Bag campaign.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing those posters. It's a really simple message, but it reminds us to stop relying so much on plastic bags. It's like we're programmed to grab them without thinking, and these campaigns are helping us break that habit.
You're right. It's about changing the way we think and act. But Singapore isn't alone in this. Lots of countries around the world are trying to figure out how to solve this plastic bag problem. Some solutions are more effective than others.
I read that some countries have banned plastic bags completely. That seems extreme. Is that the only way to really fix the problem?
Well, that's up for debate. Bans can definitely help reduce plastic bag use, but they might cause other problems. Like if people switch to using thicker plastic bags that are marketed as reusable but still end up in the trash, it might not change much.
You're right. We have to be careful that we're not just replacing one problem with another.
Yeah, and then there's the whole issue of different materials. Bags that break down naturally sound great, but they often need specific conditions to actually decompose. If they end up in a landfill, they might not break down the way they're supposed to. And sometimes they release methane gas, which is really bad for the environment.
So it's not as easy as just finding a bag that decomposes. We need to make sure it's disposed of properly.
Exactly. It's about thinking about the whole life cycle of a product. The materials, the manufacturing, transportation, use, and then disposal.
Mm.
Every step has an impact on the environment, and we have to think carefully about all of them.
It's like this huge puzzle where all the pieces are connected. And it makes you wonder, is there even a perfect solution? Or will we always have to deal with the consequences of our love for plastic bags?
That's something we'll keep talking about as we explore this issue further. It's a really interesting and complex topic.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this whole plastic bag thing. There's so much to consider, like their impact on the environment, finding alternatives, how people behave.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
It's true. This isn't a simple problem, and there's no single solution.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so interesting, right? It makes us really think about the choices we make and how they affect the world around us.
Exactly. And speaking of choices, we talked about how different countries are dealing with this plastic bag issue. Some have banned them outright, others are trying different things. What's the global picture look like in terms of solutions?
Well, there are a lot of different strategies, each with advantages and disadvantages. Some countries have partial bans, focusing on those thin, flimsy bags you get at convenience stores. Others have taxes on plastic bags, kind of like what Singapore is doing. Then there are some places experimenting with deposit return systems. You pay a small deposit for a reusable bag and get it back when you return it.
That's a neat idea. It encourages people to reuse bags instead of throwing them away after one use. But what about those biodegradable bags we mentioned? Are those becoming a realistic option?
They're getting a lot of attention, that's for sure. There's a lot of investment in bioplastics, which are plastics made from things like cornstarch or sugarcane. They're appealing because they could break down naturally, reducing pollution. But there are some things to keep in mind.
All right, let's hear those caveats. What are the downsides of these so-called eco-friendly options?
Well, one issue is that bioplastics need the right conditions to decompose. They might need a certain temperature or specific microbes to break down. If they end up in a landfill, they might not decompose the way they're supposed to.
So switching to a biodegradable bag doesn't mean it'll just disappear magically. We need to think about the whole disposal process.
Right. And then there's the question of resources and land use. Producing bioplastics often requires a lot of land, water, and energy. This could compete with growing food or lead to deforestation if it's not done sustainably.
That's a trade-off we can't ignore. We're trying to solve one environmental problem, but might be creating new ones in the process. It shows how important it is to look at the whole life cycle of a product and its impact on the environment.
Exactly. It's not just about the materials themselves, but the systems we have for managing waste. Even the most biodegradable bag won't break down if it ends up in the ocean or littering our streets.
So it comes back to personal responsibility, right? No matter how many innovative solutions there are, it ultimately comes down to our choices as consumers.
Absolutely. What we buy has a big influence on the market. We can choose products with less packaging, support businesses that prioritize sustainability, and dispose of our waste properly. All those things add up.
Like that saying, think globally, act locally. We can't expect governments or companies to fix this alone. We all have to do our part.
Couldn't agree more. Every small step matters. Speaking of steps, let's go back to Singapore and look closer at their initiatives to reduce plastic bag use.
Okay, let's zoom in on Singapore. We talked about those mandatory charges for plastic bags. Have they actually changed the way people behave?
That's the question everyone's asking. And researchers have been looking into it. The early data suggests that the charges have been effective. People are using fewer plastic bags. A study by the National Environment Agency found that single-use plastic bag consumption at supermarkets dropped by an average of 40% after the charges were implemented. It seems like putting a price tag on convenience really makes people think twice.
That's great to hear. It shows that even a small policy change can have a big impact on people's habits. But are charges enough? Or do we need to consider even more drastic solutions to get rid of our reliance on plastic bags?
It's a question that's being debated. Some people say charges are just the first step, and we need to eventually get rid of plastic bags completely. Others think we should focus on better recycling and promoting reusable bags. There's no simple answer, and the best solution probably depends on the specific situation.
It's a complex problem with no easy fixes. But it sounds like Singapore is being proactive, trying different things, and adapting as they go. What else have they done besides charging for plastic bags?
Singapore's been really active in promoting reusable bags through campaigns and different initiatives. They often give out those colorful reusable bags at events or sell them cheaply in stores. Some businesses also give discounts to customers who bring their own bags. It's all about making it easy and normal to reuse bags.
I love that idea of changing the cultural norm. It's not just about what individuals do, but creating a society where bringing your own bag is what everyone does, not just a few people. It's like we need a social movement for reusable bags.
I think you're onto something. Social movements can really change things. Look at the impact of movements like Meatless Mondays or reducing plastic straws. When enough people join in, it can change everything.
That's so inspiring. It makes me think about the power of collective action. Even small changes can have a huge impact if enough people make them. It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things. It's about all of us taking responsibility and doing our part.
Well said. It's not just about individual actions, though. It's also about innovation. Scientists and entrepreneurs are always looking for new materials and technologies to create sustainable alternatives to regular plastics.
That's where things get really exciting, right? The world of materials science is constantly changing, and who knows what amazing solutions we'll have in the future.
You're right, there are some really cool things happening in that field. For example, scientists are working on bioplastics made from seaweed, mushrooms, and even agricultural waste. These materials could be completely biodegradable and even compostable, offering a truly circular solution to the plastic problem.
That's amazing. It's like nature is giving us the answers if we're just willing to pay attention and be creative. It makes you wonder what other hidden solutions are out there just waiting to be discovered? What other natural resources could be the key to a more sustainable future?
That's a question that keeps me thinking. The possibilities are endless, and it makes me excited and a bit anxious. Excited about the potential for human creativity to solve these tough problems, but also anxious because we need to act fast. The plastic problem isn't going away by itself, and the decisions we make today will affect generations to come.
It's a strong reminder that we're not just watching this happen, we're part of it. The challenges are big, but so is our ability to innovate, adapt, and care for each other. If we embrace the possibility of change and work together, we can create a future where the plastic bag isn't a symbol of environmental damage, but a catalyst for positive change.
I love that. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's good to reflect on the bigger picture of this whole plastic bag issue. It's not just about bags, it's about how we consume things, our need for convenience, and our relationship with the environment. It's about understanding that our choices have consequences, both good and bad. And it's about taking responsibility for making wise choices so we can create a future where sustainability isn't just a goal, but a way of life.
We've talked about a lot, haven't we? The history of plastic bags, how they became such a problem, and the solutions people are trying. But I'm still stuck on this. What's next for the plastic bag? Are they going to disappear like dinosaurs? Or will they change and adapt so they can stick around in a world that's all about sustainability?
That's the big question, isn't it? The future of the plastic bag depends on a lot of things. Technology, what people want, government rules. It's interesting how something so ordinary can be part of these big, complicated issues about society, the economy, and the environment.
It's like this little example of how we treat the planet, right? Even small choices we make can have consequences that we don't even realize.
Exactly. So thinking about the future, I think it's important to look beyond just plastic bags. What if we really thought about all the other everyday things we use that might be harming the environment? What if we designed things thinking about their whole life cycle from the beginning to the very end? What if we thought about how they impact the environment every step of the way?
Yeah, like moving from a linear economy where we take, make, use, and throw away to a circular economy, where we reuse and recycle things over and over again. It's a big change, but it seems necessary now that we're realizing our planet has limits.
I agree. This circular economy idea is a really promising way to create a more sustainable future. It's about reducing waste, valuing resources, and making sure economic growth doesn't hurt the environment. It's a complex transition for sure, but there are already companies and communities showing us that it's not just a dream, but a real possibility.
It's encouraging to see those positive examples, especially when we're facing such big challenges. It makes me wonder, what can we do as individuals to speed up this shift to a circular economy? Is it just about making smart choices as consumers, or can we do more to change the whole system?
That's a really important question. What individuals do matters, but it's not enough. We need big changes, systemic changes. And that means we need to work together, talk to our elected officials, support policies that promote sustainability, and choose businesses that are operating in a circular way. These are all ways we can be part of a bigger movement for change.
It's about realizing we're not just shoppers, we're citizens. We have a voice, and we can shape the future. We have to hold ourselves and our leaders accountable for building a world where economic success and a healthy environment aren't separate things, but go hand in hand.
That's so well said. I think this whole plastic bag story gives us a good example of how to deal with these complicated problems. It shows how important it is to think critically, to talk to each other, and to work together across different areas. It reminds us that there aren't always simple answers or quick fixes. But if we're willing to innovate, keep trying, and work toward a common goal, we can create a better, more sustainable world for ourselves and for future generations.
That's a really hopeful message. The future isn't set in stone. What we do, both as individuals and as a society, shapes what happens next. We face big challenges, but we're also capable of amazing things. creativity, resilience, and compassion. If we focus on what's possible and work together, we can create a future where the plastic bag isn't a symbol of harming the environment, but a symbol of positive change.
I love that. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. I hope our listeners have enjoyed exploring this topic as much as I have.
Absolutely. It's been quite a journey, and thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the world of plastic bags. We've explored their history, the problems they cause, and some of the solutions people are working on.
And while we don't know what will happen to plastic bags in the future, one thing's for sure. We have the power to decide. The choices we make, individually and together, will determine whether plastic bags become a thing of the past or if they transform into something that represents a more sustainable future.
So, next time you see a plastic bag, think about the choices you make. Remember, even small actions can make a difference and be part of a bigger change. Thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.